The moment Darius realized the joke wasn't funny anymore, it was already too late. Before we get into this story about pride, quiet power, and the kind of truth that doesn't announce itself until it's ready, don't forget to subscribe to Secret Tales. The first thing people noticed about Caleb wasn't his clothes. It was how calm he looked in places where calm didn't belong, like right now, standing at the edge of that wide, stone-paved driveway, hands loosely folded, shoulders relaxed, like he wasn't being laughed at, like he didn't hear them, but he did. Every word, every chuckle, every sharp little comment, wrapped in a smile. "Man, look at this dude," Darius said, loud enough to make sure the air carried it. He leaned back against the sleek Bugatti, arms folded across his chest, shirt open just enough to show off the gym-built body he worked hard for and wanted everyone to notice. Beside him, Nia laughed, not a small laugh either, the kind that bends you forward and makes you point. And she did, right at Caleb. "You serious?" she said between breaths. "You really showed up like that?" Caleb glanced down at himself for a second. Simple sneakers, dark jeans, a clean, slightly worn hoodie. Nothing flashy, nothing that begged for attention. Then he looked back up. "I came how I am," he said quietly. "That only made it worse." Darius smirked. "Nah, man, you came how you stay." Another laugh from Nia, and something about that laugh hit different. Not because it was loud, but because it used to sound softer. The house behind them stretched wide and tall, all stone and glass, sitting like it had something to prove. The kind of place that didn't just belong to money, but to old money. Oak trees framed the driveway, sunlight filtering through like a scene from a movie. And right in front of it all, this moment played out like a performance. Only one person didn't know the script. "Darius," Caleb said, his voice still steady. "You done?" "Done?" Darius pushed off the car, stepping forward with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I ain't even start, bro." He circled Caleb slowly, not aggressively, just enough to make it uncomfortable. "You know what this looks like?" Darius continued. "It looks like somebody who don't know when they out of their league." Caleb didn't move, didn't react, just watched him. And that bothered Darius more than anything, because Darius was used to reactions. He built himself on them. Respect, attention, validation, it all fed him. Growing up on the west side of Atlanta, respect wasn't optional. It was survival. And now he had money. Or at least he had access to it. And that changed how people treated him, how he saw himself. "You see this?" Darius gestured toward the Bugatti, running his hand across the polished surface like it was proof of something deeper. "This ain't regular life, Caleb. This ain't struggle mode no more." Nia stepped closer to him, slipping her arm through his like she belonged there, like she always had. "You gotta elevate," she added, tilting her head. "You can't just stay stuck." Stuck. That word lingered in the air. For a second, Caleb's eyes shifted, not in anger, not even in hurt, just memory. Because once upon a time, Nia used to sit on the steps of his mama's house, talking about dreams that didn't involve cars like that, or houses like this. Dreams that sounded simpler, realer. But people change. Or maybe they just reveal themselves. "I'm good where I'm at," Caleb said. Darius let out a short laugh. "Nah, You comfortable. Big difference. There it was again. That need to define him, to shrink him, to make sure everyone knew who was on top in this moment. But something about Caleb didn't match the picture Darius was trying to paint. Because most people, when embarrassed like this, they shift, they defend, they get loud, or they leave. Caleb did none of that. He just stood there, still, present, like he was waiting. You even know whose place this is? Darius asked suddenly, turning slightly so his voice carried again. Caleb nodded once. Yeah, that caught Darius off guard for half a second, but he recovered fast. Oh, yeah? He said. Then you know this ain't for people like you. Nia added, softer this time, but sharper. You should have just stayed home, Caleb. That one landed, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it, like she meant it, like there was no version of him that belonged here anymore. Caleb took a slow breath, looked past them, at the house, at the windows, reflecting the late afternoon light, at something only he seemed to understand. Then he said, I was invited. Darius blinked, then smiled. That same confident, dismissive smile. Invited, he repeated. By who? There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. And in that silence, something shifted, just slightly, like the ground beneath the moment wasn't as solid as it looked. Does it matter? Caleb replied. Darius chuckled. Yeah, it does. He stepped closer again, close enough now that the space between them felt intentional. You don't just walk into spaces like this, man. You gotta earn it, or be brought in by somebody who already earned it. His voice dropped just a little. And I don't see nobody here claiming you. Nia looked between them. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Not doubt, but recognition, like a memory trying to surface. But she pushed it down. Quick! Darius, come on, she said, lightly tugging his arm. He's not worth all that. Not worth it. Another label. Another box. Caleb nodded slowly. Maybe you're right, he said. And for the first time, it sounded like he might leave. Like he might step away from all of it. From them. From this moment. But he didn't. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out something small. Metal. A key. He held it loosely between his fingers, not waving it, not showing off, just holding it. Darius frowned slightly. What's that supposed to be? He asked. Caleb looked at it for a second, then back at him. Access, he said. Darius laughed again, louder this time. Oh, now you got jokes? But his eyes, they stayed on that key a little longer than expected, because something about it didn't feel like a joke. You really standing here acting like you belong? Darius pressed. Caleb didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked something else. Darius, how long you been coming here? The question threw him off. What? How long? Caleb repeated. Darius hesitated, just for a moment, then shrugged. Couple months. Caleb nodded. Yeah, he said quietly. That sounds about right. Something in his tone shifted the air again. Subtle, but real. Nia noticed it this time. Her smile faded just a little. Caleb, what are you talking about? She asked. He looked at her. Really looked. Not at how she dressed. Not at who she stood next to. But at her. And whatever he saw, it didn't surprise him. I'm saying, Caleb began, his voice still calm, still steady. Some people walk into a place and think it's theirs, just because nobody corrected them. Darius' expression tightened. Say what you mean. Caleb took a small step forward. not aggressive, just enough to shift the balance. "You ever wonder," he said, "why nobody ever told you who actually runs things here?" That did it. The smile dropped. The confidence flickered, just for a second. "Man, stop playing," Darius said, though his voice wasn't as firm as before. Nia looked between them again, now fully unsure. "Darius," she said quietly, but Caleb wasn't looking at him anymore. He was looking at the house, at the front door, which, at that exact moment, started to open. All three of them turned. A man stepped out, older, well-dressed, composed in a way that didn't need to announce itself. He scanned the driveway briefly. Then his eyes landed on Caleb, and his entire posture changed. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, but unmistakable. Respect. "Sir," the man said, walking forward, not toward Darius, not toward Nia, toward Caleb. And just like that, everything that had been said, every laugh, every assumption, started to crack. Darius straightened slightly, confusion creeping in. "Hey," he said quickly, stepping forward, trying to reclaim the moment. "We were just—" The man didn't even look at him. "Apologies for the delay," he said to Caleb. "We weren't expecting you this early." Silence. Heavy. Sharp. Unforgiving. Caleb slipped the key back into his pocket. Then, finally, he smiled. Just a little. "I figured I'd come see things for myself," he said. Darius's stomach dropped. Not all at once, but enough, because in that moment a question formed, one he hadn't asked before, one he should have. Who exactly had he been talking to this whole time? And why did it suddenly feel like he had been standing in front of something far bigger than he understood, mocking it, laughing at it, without even realizing the man who paid for everything had been standing right there, listening, and now the truth wasn't coming slowly. It was walking straight toward him. For a moment, nobody moved. Not Darius, not Nia, not even Caleb. Because when truth shows up uninvited, it doesn't rush. It stands there and lets everything else collapse around it. The older man stopped just a step behind Caleb, hands lightly folded in front of him. "Everything is prepared inside," he said calmly. "The board is waiting." Board. That word didn't belong in Darius's understanding of this place. His mind had always framed it differently. Parties, connections, status, opportunity. But board? That meant structure, ownership, decisions, power that didn't need to flex. Darius cleared his throat, forcing a smile back onto his face like nothing had shifted. "Yeah, we were just out here talking," he said, stepping forward again, trying to insert himself into a conversation that had already moved past him. This time, the older man looked at him, just briefly, measured, polite, but distant. "The meeting is private," he said. "We'll send word if guests are needed later." Guests. That word landed harder than anything Caleb had said. Darius blinked. "Guests?" he repeated, almost under his breath. Nia felt it too. That invisible line being drawn, and suddenly she wasn't sure which side she was standing on. Caleb turned slightly, finally facing them both again. There was no anger in his expression. No need for it. Just clarity. "I meant what I said earlier," Caleb said, his voice steady. "Some people walk into spaces and assume they belong because nobody corrected them." Darius shook his head quickly. "Now, hold up. What is this? You acting like—" "Like what?" Caleb asked. And there it was again. That calm, that control, the kind you can't fake. Darius opened his mouth, then closed it, because for the first time since this started, he didn't have the next line. Nia stepped forward slowly. "Caleb," she said, softer now. "What's going on?" He looked at her, and for a second, the past tried to come back. The version of her that sat on those steps, the version that believed in simple things. But reality didn't leave space for that anymore. "You remember when we used to talk about ownership?" Caleb asked. She frowned slightly. "Yeah, you said you didn't just want to be around success," he continued. "You wanted to understand it, build it, be part of something real." Her expression shifted because she remembered. Caleb nodded once. "This is what that looks like." Darius scoffed, but it sounded forced now. "Man, you talking in circles. Just say what you trying to say." Caleb didn't rush, didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. "I own this place." Silence. Not the kind that fades quickly, the kind that stays. Darius let out a short laugh. "Too quick, too loud. Man, stop. I don't just own the house." Caleb added calmly, "I own the company that built it, the land it sits on, the firm that manages it, and the investments tied to everything you've been enjoying these past few months." Each word landed heavier than the last. Darius's smile disappeared completely now. His eyes searched Caleb's face for something, anything, that looked like a joke. But there was nothing. "That don't make sense," Darius muttered. You don't look like—" "Like what?" Caleb interrupted quietly. That question again. But this time it hit differently, because Darius realized something in that moment. He had built his entire understanding of success on what it looked like. Cars, clothes, attention, things that could be seen, validated, recognized. But Caleb had been standing there the whole time, with none of that. And yet, all of it belonged to him. Nia took a small step back, her mind replaying everything she had said just minutes ago. The laughter, the pointing, the dismissal. "I didn't know," she said softly. Caleb nodded. "I know." And that hurt more than if he had been angry. Darius ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before stopping again. "So what, you just let people come here?" "Let them think." "I let people show me who they are," Caleb said. That answer cut deeper than anything else. Because this wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't even about power. It was about exposure. "You think this is funny?" Darius snapped, frustration finally breaking through. "You just standing there letting people talk to you crazy like that?" Caleb tilted his head slightly. "No," he said. "I think it's necessary." Darius frowned. "Necessary for what?" "For clarity." Another pause. "See," Caleb continued, "anybody can respect you when they know what you have." "That's easy. That's surface level." He took a step closer. "But how people treat you when they think you have nothing, that's the truth." Darius didn't respond, because there was nothing to argue with. Nia looked down at her hands, then back up at Caleb. "I didn't mean—" "You did," he said gently. Not harsh, not accusing, just honest. "And that's okay," he added. "People mean what they show, not what they say after." That landed deep. The older man cleared his throat slightly. "We should head inside," he reminded Caleb. "They're waiting." Caleb nodded, then looked at Darius one last time. "You got potential," he said, "but you building your identity on borrowed things." Darius clenched his jaw. "That car?" Caleb gestured lightly toward the Bugatti. "Leased through one of my companies." Darius's eyes widened. "The events you've been attending?" Invitations sent through my network. Nia looked at Darius now, really looked like she was seeing him for the first time. And this place, Caleb finished, you were never inside the circle. You were just close enough to feel like you were. The truth didn't explode. It settled, heavy, permanent. Darius took a slow step back, then another, not out of fear, but because the ground he thought he was standing on was gone. Caleb turned toward the house, then paused, just for a second. Respect doesn't come from what you stand next to, he said without turning back. It comes from who you are when nobody thinks you matter. And with that, he walked away. The door closed behind him, quietly, but it echoed. Darius stood there, staring at nothing. The car behind him didn't feel the same anymore. The house didn't feel welcoming. The moment didn't feel recoverable. Nia wrapped her arms around herself slightly, not from cold, but from realization. "We messed up," she whispered. Darius didn't answer, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about what to say next. He was thinking about what he had already said, and how none of it could be taken back. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the driveway. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. Some lessons don't come when you're ready. They come when you've already said too much, already shown too much, already revealed exactly who you are, when you thought nobody important was watching. And sometimes the person you underestimate the most is the one holding everything together. If this story made you see things differently, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to Secret Tales